Sex, drugs and the electoral roll. How a working girl wound up working in politics. Politicians come from a business background or maybe from the unions, but Fiona Patten's path to Parliament has been anything but ordinary. The former sex worker's political career began with a lobby group for workers in the adult industry in the 90s. Her controversial sex party followed, and in 2014, after years of trying, she was elected to the Victorian Legislative Council, where she now holds the balance of power. Never one to shy away from a shock, Fiona has just released a tell-all memoir, Sex, Drugs and the Electoral Roll, and she joins us now. Thank you.
Bracket title.
Just the best title of any political memoir I've ever seen.
Who knew politics could be that exciting?
It is quite exciting, but yeah, it seems that, well, we know sex and politics doesn't match, so I think that's probably why the title has gained some attention.
One of my favourite comments of yours is that while you might be the first former sex worker elected to Parliament, there are one or two clients already in there.
Yes, and when I said that...
Not of yours, I should say, but
no, there was no one familiar there. But when I said that, I said it in my maiden speech, and I was so nervous I didn't realise that there were actually people laughing, but all I could hear and feel was people just, like, looking at their feet. Kind of just... not me.
It's funny when it comes to politicians, I mean, their kind of their backgrounds and their past, they try to keep it oh so clean, squeaky clean. They're trying to stop any sort of scandal coming out, hitting the papers, because they think that it might bring them down. But you've been incredibly open about your past, and in fact you've used it as leverage to get to where you are now.
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. And I think, you know, probably an unusual admission for a politician is I'm a really bad liar. So this actually makes it quite... It makes it much easier just to tell the truth. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with my past, and I think my past probably reflects lots of people in the community in the way they've experimented with different things, or maybe the sex work is slightly less usual.
Well, take us through it. How did you get into sex work in the first place?
Yeah, it was just one of those... It was just one of those kind of sliding door moments, I suppose, when I was actually working as an HIV and AIDS educator and was working for the AIDS Council, was going out to all the brothels, making sure all the sex workers were happy, that they had condoms, that, you know, everyone was happy. And I went to one evening and they were really busy, and a client had extended and there was a couple of clients waiting, and the receptionist kind of said, "What am I going to do?" And I said, "I'll help."
You stepped in.
That's a pretty big call.
Yeah. Had you ever considered it before?
No. Well, you know, I think, and look, I won't speak for everyone, but I think there's a lot of us who have had sex for something other than love.
Did you have a look at him first?
I did.
Okay. But this wasn't a one-off. This wasn't a one-off thing. You carried this on for a couple of years.
I mean, it was remarkable. After having a look at him, it's like, well, this looks all right. And going into the room, and you know, certainly I had friends who were sex workers, so I had a fair idea about what was to be expected. And yeah, kind of at the end of it, it's like, well, that was easy.
Wow.
It strikes me you were someone who, like in a lot of cases, prostitution is a horrible thing that a woman is forced to do because she has no other choice, or she's feeding an addiction or something. But for you, it wasn't like that, was it? It was something you went into very clear-eyed, and because you thought this is actually a career choice.
Well, you know, I don't think it was ever a career choice. I think it was always something that I did for a few months, and you know, I don't think I was ever... I've never been driven by money, particularly, so it was fun, and yeah, I had a good time. I met some really nice people.
It was not about the money. It was not, or
it was at the time, but I don't think I would have. There's some people who choose it as a career and who build up and who work for years in the business and make, you know, a lot of money, and the type of money that you can make as a sex worker, you know, can be substantially more than you can make as a waitress, as it were, if you were putting yourself through university.
It can be dangerous.
Yes and no. I think if you work in a regulated industry where those checks and balances are in place, it's a pretty safe space. And you know, most people kind of think, I don't know what most people think of brothels, but they're actually a women's space. You know, it's largely, it's a space where it's a women's workplace and it's set up in that way, which is pretty safe, unlike Parliament.
So did you actually I'm just intrigued by this. You actually did the work because you thought, well, this is actually interesting or this is an experience, or was it just...
Look, it was
what was the motivator?
It was a bit of both, and I think after I'd kind of, you know, just said yes that one night, there didn't seem any point sort of saying no for the next few months.
We've crossed the Rubicon, we've crossed the threshold.
That's right. But then it kind of interfered with my social life and, you know...
What was the reaction in Parliament? I believe you had an interesting meeting with Peter Credlin at one stage.
Yes. Yeah, that was before I was in Parliament, but... yeah, Peter is a formidable woman, as I'm sure you know, Angelo, and she's... I'm not a tall person, she is a tall person, and in a meeting that we were having, and this was around the censorship of the internet in the very early days, and I felt that the government of the time was making some very random and illogical decisions about that, and I pointed that out, and we had a... in the end, we agreed to disagree, but we also... I also won the point, and the legislation didn't go ahead as it first was planned to. But I certainly got a dressing down from Peter, and if I said one word to anyone about what had gone down on that day, yeah, I don't think she said guts for garters, but, you know, that was the impression I got from the conversation.
OK.
The Sex Party is a very interesting party because, like you say, it's anti-censorship, it's pro-free speech, which these days, sadly, I don't know why, is seen as the domain of the right.
Yeah.
But it's also obviously very progressive on social issues like legalising drugs and stuff like that.
Voluntary euthanasia is something that you can put over the line as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the... I mean, quite frankly, you could not be doing any worse than any of the major parties these days. What's the future? Are you going to be the next Prime Minister? Are you going to go federal?
Look, I don't think I'll be changing the curtains in the lodge anytime soon. I really like the work I do at a state level. I think it's a level of politics that really suits me. Of course, the ambitions for the party are federal.
But you're the figurehead of the party. Surely you've got to go to Canberra.
You know, I actually think I would love to be re-elected for one more term, and I actually think 8 years is enough, and I should actually go and do something different and let somebody else, you know, take up the challenge and take up the privilege that being an elected representative is. So I would like to think that if I get re-elected, that in 4 years' time I'll go off and use the skills that I've
to go to Canberra?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, I know it's a crap place to live, but come on.
Look, you know, I've lived in Canberra. I actually think Canberra's a great place to live. It's a really crap place to visit. But
that person agrees.
Sorry.
Fiona, I always find that a woman with, you know, sexual power or prowess is intimidating. Some people might be intimidated. What was it like when you did win office? Were there any hostilities that you encountered? We want some dirt here.
Yeah. Look, I think people, you know, people were taking the piss, for want of a better thing. They thought that was hilarious, and they were honestly, I think they were honestly surprised. And certainly when I said the first thing I wanted to do was assisted dying and get the ball rolling on that, Jeff Kennett came up and spoke to me and said, "I'm very disappointed in you." And he said, "Don't get me wrong, I support this, but I just thought when the Sex Party was elected it would be a lot more fun." And he was a little bit disappointed. However, yeah, you know, people were saying things like, well, what's she going to swear on, you know, when I was going through the inaugural... Yeah, I wrote a bit about it in my book, and I think just...
Do you mean instead of the Bible, you were going to be swearing on something else?
On something else,
okay.
yeah.
Kama Sutra. Something with...
well, actually, something that might have required batteries.
Batteries? Okay.
Yeah. No. It was kind of really childish. It was really childish. I think I probably won in that one is in the fact that I found out about it and I reported it to the media and then slipped the media report under that MP's door. So he knew that we knew who it was.
You must come back and guest host the show sometime. You're fab.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you on for a bit longer.
Yep.
Fiona's memoir is called Sex, Drugs and the Electoral Roll. Great title. My Unlikely Journey from Sex Worker to Member of Parliament. Please put your hands together for this fabulous woman. Great talking to you.
Thank you.